the awards, which is a very important part of the first experience. You go on to the next slide. So this is kind of what we'll talk about for any of the new folks that are out there. We'll talk a little bit about the awards, kind of what we've done in the past. We'll talk a little bit about judging criteria. We'll talk a little bit about the black box that everyone thinks it is. It's actually pretty straightforward. We'll also talk about some of the helpful tips that hopefully next year we're going to have normal events again. In the likelihood that we don't have normal events and we're kind of in some sort of a virtual world for some applications of the events, we'll talk about some of the COVID-19 modifications that are currently being worked on now. Working with the headquarters, we'll throw in that things are not completely ironed out yet. There's a lot of moving pieces, but I can share some of the insights for you. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about myself again, Brian Haynes. I've been doing this for a long time. Connie and I actually got started in FIRST back in the 90s, actually, with Lego League, and then we got more involved with FIRST Robotics around '99. I think was the first event that I went to down at Disney World. I've been hooked ever since. So I've done refereeing, judging. I think even Jeff Reese allowed me to be an inspector one year. That was kind of short-lived, but I had a lot of fun doing it. So the way we're kind of set up, if you notice that the events, if you've been to the events last year, we try to have lead judges that are more regional. At one point in time, before we brought all the regionals online, I was like really overworked. Connie was overworking me because I had to be the lead judge for all the events. But now we have it set up where we got some very good judges with a lot of experience that actually are the lead judges for each one of the district events. And then I kind of ride herd over the state as the lead judge. One of the things we want to do is we do want to have consistency in how we judge across the state. I think it makes it more fair for the teams. And it also kind of helps to roll things up when we go to the state level. And I feel like our teams are very well prepared by the time we get to the national level. And as you're aware, we had one of our very own. Kel 1311 won the Chairman's Award at the big event a few years back. Very proud of that. So anyway, next slide. So our awards are kind of broken up into several categories. We've got awards based on machine, and everything's not about the robot. So we also have team attribute awards, which are very important, and we also cover creativity and innovation. And there's also some awards that are submitted even before the events start. And then we also have the Volunteer of the Year Award, which is also a standalone award. Next slide. If you look at how things are broken up for submitted awards, you've got Chairman's Award, you got the Dean's List, there's the Digital Animation Award, there's the Safety Animation, and also the Woody Flowers Award. And these are all things that that are taken care of really before the actual competition season begins. Next slide. These are the awards based on machine creativity and innovation, and these I usually get asked at the events like, hey, we want, how do you win the quality award, for example? And if you go to the FIRST website and you can click on some of these links, I think Connie had it set up that actually takes you to these different awards. You can see everything that the judges see. So if you want to, learn about the Creativity Award, there'll be an explanation about what the Creativity Award is, and then it'll actually have the guidelines. These are the things that we're looking for, if you want to win the Creativity Award, and that's very important. When you look at those guidelines or what attributes we're looking for on the robot, or from a team perspective, things you're doing in your community. I mean, those are front and center. Matter of fact, when we nominate robots and we put them on our flip chart paper on the wall as we deliberate, we always keep those guidelines in front of us to make sure that as we're looking at the different robots that, that they're hitting on all those different aspects of the guidelines. Anyway, so these are the awards. I will mention this, the Quality Award, in terms of difficulty in judging, is one of the more easier ones to to figure out, because it's based on the pits as well. You know, the imagery award is somewhat based on the pit, but the quality award, the best time I always tell people to judge that award is in the morning on the second day of the competition. Because what is the condition of that pit? And I've seen it where teams, when they start up, everything looks phenomenal, but then the next day their pit looks like a bomb went off. And that pretty much will take them out of contention for that award, because in addition to the robot being high quality, the cart, everything about that team needs to be very high quality, including the condition of the pit. Next slide. Team attributes. And, you know, we mentioned this before. You know, of course, the competition is a lot of fun, and working on the robot and things like that are a lot of fun. But one of the things about FIRST is, you know, we want to instill this, you know, gracious professionalism. You know, when you think about industry, everything is not just about, you know, work. There's also things that you do in your community. There's mentoring. There's all these other kind of team attribute aspects of the experience, which is very important for the overall FIRST experience. And these are some very important awards that we give out, you know, engineering inspiration, entrepreneurship, gracious professionalism. You'll hear us talk a lot about gracious professionalism, imagery, then rookie all-star, rookie inspiration, then there's a safety award and team spirit award. I'd like to also point that, you know, a lot of times we'll see something very unique at a competition dealing with a robot. It could be something about a design aspect that you know, that maybe there wasn't a clear criteria of how that could be recognized, or maybe it's something they did very special from a team perspective that maybe didn't, you know, they didn't bubble to the top or didn't get an award or something. And that's what the Judges Award is for. That's something that we can give special recognition to a team for something they've done either at the robot or a team attribute level. So it's a very important one. I'd also like to mention that the Engineering Inspiration Award, Chairman's Award, and also Rookie All-Star Award. And we always look at the Rookie All-Star Award as like this is a Chairman's Award kind of in the future kind of thing, same way with Engineering Inspiration. Those awards are very important, and if you win that at one of the district events, that gives you the opportunity to go to the state level. Okay, now you may not be able to take your robot depending on the points, but it allows you to compete in the state level for that award. So if we have 5 district events, okay, there'll be 5 different teams that have either awarded the All-Star Engineering Inspiration or Chairman's Award. Those teams will compete at the state level to win that particular award at the state level. Okay, and the way Connie has things set up for Georgia, we'll send 2 chairman winners, 2 EI winners, and 2 rookie all-star winners. They'll get to go to the nationals every year. So those are very, very, very important awards, and they're weighted, you know, pretty high in terms of the importance. So those are really good ones to get. Next slide. So in addition to the awards, which obviously people want to get the awards, then there's the how you perform on the field, the actual competition. And there's different awards that are given out there. One is the finalist. There's also the highest rookie seed award. And then, of course, you have the winner. And, you know, they get to go down the line and I guess we'll do the elbow bump or something in the future. So that's another way that you're receive recognition. Next slide. Judging criteria, you can go and you can see, like I mentioned before, you can see all the different guidelines or things that we're looking for each one of those awards. You can see when you're a judge, okay, and we typically try to have anywhere from 15 to 20 plus judges at an event. You know, one of the things I'll give them is they get to have the judges manual. Okay, it's the top secret manual that the judges have. But when you go through it, for each one of those awards that we talked about earlier, every one of those awards you've got access to in terms of the award, the guidelines that we're looking for. How do you win that award? Okay, so you've got full access to all that information. So I would urge you to make sure you review that. Okay, and if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to me at any time if you have any questions about that. Next slide. Now, these are some helpful tips, and this is feedback not only for myself but things I hear from other judges during interactions with the students. And of course, one of the for the most of the judged awards. Okay, we're not talking about chairmans, for example, because we have a special committee to do that. But we have to get the data from the pits. We tell the judges they're like they're like detectives. They have to go out and get as much information as they can from the teams about their robot, either about the design of their robot or things about their teams. What do they do in the community? How do they raise money? Do they have a strategic plan or whatever? We get all that information and we bring it back and we talk with the other judges, and that's kind of how we figure out who we're going to nominate for certain awards. So it is critical that when you see the blue shirts coming around the pits, make sure you have someone at your pit. Now, I realize that if you're a smaller team and if you look at it, your drive team and a few other folks, well, that might be your whole team. So it might be hard for you to have someone to be in the pits the whole time. And we'll work with teams, to try to kind of get between some of the matches or something like that. But for the most part, it's important because we have very limited time. Okay, we have to make a lot of decisions pretty quickly because we have to have things figured out for the award ceremonies and all that. So it's critical that you have people in the pits. Make sure you have people in the pits that can discuss the robot. We've talked to students in the past in the pits where you could really tell you got the deer in the headlights look. If you say, "Hey, tell me about your robot," and they really couldn't say anything about the robot, and then of course you'll look at parents or mentors and they're just so frustrated because we can't talk to parents and mentors. Now we can thank them for all the help they do, but they're not supposed to talk to us about the robot. And you may have mentioned in the past, if a mentor or something would start to talk about the robot, that we'll, using gracious professionalism, we'll tell them that we really can't talk to them. So, but it's important for in the pits, have people ready to talk to judges. And some of the teams are really buttoned up. I mean, they'll have energetic people. They'll almost run out to the judges. They'll be handing out flyers and buttons and talking about the design and also what they do in their community. So that communication piece in the pits is very important. So think about that in your strategy to have folks in the pits. You may mention, gee, why are all those judges sitting right next to the field? How come they get such good seats? Well, part of that is it's very important that the judges get the opportunity to actually see some of the robots on the field. And I've been to events before where I was actually judging, where you spend so much time in the pits, it's really hard to get the opportunity to go look at some of the matches because you're talking to teams, you're deliberating with other judges in the judging room. So it's good to give us an opportunity to get to see some of the matches on the field and also get a feel for the game. And you have to remember, a lot of times these judges, they're new to FIRST too. It's a way to kind of bring them in from their companies. And I know one of the first times I ever judged, actually, I think I was a referee. It gives you that opportunity to get out and interact with the kids and see the game and kind of get you excited. So hopefully you'll go back, get more people excited at your work, and get more involved with the program. Anyways, that's why we sit and watch some matches initially. And you also notice that many times we'll have either one or two judges down on the scoring table that they're taking lots of notes in terms of how the robots actually perform on the field. Should your team give us information while we're out in the pits? Sure, we'll take whatever you want to give us. If you've got like a strategic plan or a business plan, if you got some flyers about your team, we'll take anything you want to give us. Now, we know some of that can be very expensive to print out a lot of stuff, so a lot of times we'll want to give that back to you at the end when we're through judging, and we'll usually leave that on the pit table if you would like to get it back. This is more for interviews, really for Dean's List and chairmen, but just make sure you're on time. And really in Georgia, for all the events I've been to over the years, we really haven't had a bad time with that. So our teams have been really good about being on time. We've had a few times where we've had some issues, we'll typically work with the teams and try to work things out, because we understand it can be very hectic on the field and whatnot. So we'll try to be a little forgiving on that. And the other thing too is, don't be afraid to ask the judges questions. One of the key things about this is, when you guys are at these events, and especially with your mentors and stuff, when you've got, professionals, engineers, scientists, across a wide variety of different backgrounds that are, volunteering our time. And remember, you're our customer for these events. We're, you're not there for us, we're there for you. So, you need to ask questions. If you've got some time, feel free to, if a judge, is taking a break or something, feel free to talk with them, about what they do and career and things like that. I would recommend that you do that for any of the volunteers. There's a lot of really talented people in this organization. So don't be afraid to talk to us. You won't get in trouble, I promise. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about, the impact of COVID-19, and obviously it's impacted like everyone at work. I know I've worked out of the house now since the middle of March. I've gone into our labs and done some stuff. Everything's different now. It's a different way of doing things. So what do we think the 2021 season could look like? And unfortunately, I can't give you, well, this is the way we're going to do it, okay? Because it's not figured out yet. I was talking to Alan Bancroft the other day, and he's the lead judge for FRC overall. And we were kind of talking a little bit about some of the things that, what can we do? And these are just ideas, but just to kind of give you a feel for some of the thoughts that are out there. Imagine that if we're going to do this virtual, well, then it's like, well, the judges, we need to be able to see or read. We need to somehow compare Team A versus Team B. So it may be that if you look at the awards and if you think, well, gee, we got a very innovative shooting mechanism this year, or whatever it is. So we think we got a pretty good shot at either the industrial design or creativity or maybe even engineering excellence. Well, then what you may want to do is there might be a standard. Okay, remember, we want to be fair. So there might be a standard where you would fill out, like maybe it's a one page only where you describe, the benefits of your design. Okay, and maybe we allow each team to submit 3 pictures, and maybe there's one video of 30 seconds. I don't know. There'll be some guideline of how the information is presented to the judges. And then we would do this virtual, where we would then take that information and then we would work on, determining the winners. I don't know how this is going to pan out. If we're going to allow so many people there, maybe we'll have a very small judging contingent that would be able to attend the events. I just don't know how this is going to plan out, but I do know that there's a lot of work that's going on now. There's a lot of creative ideas. We do feel like that the awards process, or the recognition for all the work that the teams do for all these different aspects of their robot and the things they're doing as a team, we want to continue that recognition, because that's very important. So we'll figure something out. So rest assured, there's a lot of people working on this, and I'm sure we'll figure something out. For example, at the end of last year, we had several events, and we didn't get all the way through, like take Chairman's Award. Same thing for Dean's List. And so what we did was we pulled together a judging panel. And we figured out, based on the information we have, who would win like the district events, and then we actually did interviews, virtual interviews at the state level. So I think as we're kind of working out some of the bugs, even like this event we're doing today, I think a lot of people are feeling pretty comfortable with the virtual, digital format, and I think we can work these out. But again, we're working on it. It's not figured out yet, but we will for sure have some kind of an awards program in 2021. So more to come on that one. Next slide. And that's it. So I'm open to questions.
And Brian, Mike, can you see the Q&A panel from your screen?
I see a Q&A tab. Do I need to click on it?
Yeah, you just need to open that up. And they tend to not scroll up well, so look for the right side. There's a scroll bar. I can get out of the slideshow if you'd like, or I can just stay in it. to get back
Okay,
and
I
forth.
see a lot of Go Tigers from Mr. Scott.
I can actually start you off with a question. Lisa Hatch shared that at the MAC meeting from the FRC coaches, there was a question of how many district event chairman's awards will be made. There, for example, will each one-day event have a chairman's award?
I would and I'm not 100% sure how all that's panning out, but I would think if you're talking about a district event, yes, I would say for every district event there would be a chairman's. Yes.
But for this season, if it's a one-day situation, is each day seen as a district event?
Don't know.
Okay, good.
Don't know. Because I think the way they were saying that was going to be, if I understood correctly, talking with Connie, it was going to be like where each day they were going to try to break up the number of teams. Like maybe it's only 18 teams a day or something like that.
And I just stopped sharing just so I can assist with Q&A if necessary. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I see your Go Tigers things. You got a suggestion there? You scroll down.
Okay, how many chairman's awards has not been worked out? Okay, yeah, Connie was just saying that hadn't been worked out yet. Okay.
Okay, and anybody else online, feel free to throw those questions in for Brian.
And I see what Lisa said, and that's a good comment. And that's something else too. As a student, if you're in the pits and if you really don't know anything about the design of the robot, just say, "Hey, I'm not the right person. You need to talk to, Sally, and they're the driver." Just tell us, and then that's when we can work things out. You would never get penalized if you don't have the right people in the pit at the time. We just want to get the data, right? So what can be frustrating with us is when we don't get the communication on who we need to talk to or when, then that's when things start to kind of get a little bit, crazy because we have deadlines on our end. So yeah, if you're not the right person, feel free to say, "Hey, I'm not the right person," and we'll try to get us to the right person. We've even interviewed folks in the queuing line before, so we'll work it out. But if you don't know anything about the design, don't try to make anything up. That could be bad. So. Anything else?
If you scroll down, Howard Evans just posted one.
Mentors were invited to observe the virtual Dean's List interviews. Were mentors invited to these interviews before it went virtual? And that would be no. Going forward, I'd have to talk to Sue about that. I would say I don't see any reason why we couldn't. We actually talked about that when we did the virtual chairman's awards. Of course, we trust these kids, but in reality, if a student was sitting in their home, you don't know who all could potentially be sitting around. So in a way, I don't think it's as critical.
Okay, there's more coming in if you scroll down.
Uh-oh. Cisco WebEx service is not responding.
Okay.
Close the program or wait for the program to respond. So maybe
if you want to hop out and then come back in, I'm still here. We're good.
Can you is there any way can you just read the question or?
Sure thing. Just I don't know if you saw Lisa commented the in-person the mentor presence might have been because of YPP. So, which I understand. Brian Carlson wrote a question. If the person you talk to isn't in the pit, is it okay for a pit person to get time to talk from the judges and then ensure the person is there at that time? Brian, not really sure if I'm getting it where you're getting at.
Yeah, we can. It's almost like setting up a time, if I understood that correctly. We just can't talk to we can't talk to parents or really mentors. It has to be a student,
Yeah, I think that
right?
addresses this question.
Now, if a parent is like, "Hey, my kid's the driver and they'll be here in 10 minutes," blah blah blah, that kind of conversation is fine. Just nothing about the robot.
Great. Everybody's hitting that coffee afternoon wall, maybe.
I'm still looking at the spinning blue circle.
Wow. Well, I can tell you it's been a well-attended event, just the ones I've done. So I know I appreciate the input you've given to everybody here.
Well, and the other thing too is feel free, ask anything. I would love more than anything to see people sending stuff in my inbox, because there really shouldn't be any mystery about anything. And I know that some people have thought, gee, it's what's that black box thing that's going on, the way they do the awards and stuff like that. And it's really not that difficult. Like I said before, if you go read the guidelines for those awards, that everything's on the on that website, on the FRC site. That's exactly what we use, and that's what we debate in terms of the different criteria and guidelines for the awards. So that's what you really need to study on if there's something you want to go for.
We have a question. Do you know if all awards will be given out this year, or will some of them be paused until next season?
Again, that's something that's kind of still up in the air. If it was me, I would continue to do all of them, and it's just a matter of if a team is if there's really something they want to go for, they somehow get that information to the judging panel. That's really going to be the key to this whole virtual thing, is how do you get the information? And really, in a way, it's kind of like the chairman. For the chairman's award, you've got all these things like, how many events have they had, how many people have they talked to. So there's data. It's like, how do you get the data? If a team says, gee, we got this very creative shooting mechanism, they can reload in half the time as everything else they've seen. Well, then how do you get that information to the judges? Maybe there's maybe there's some photographs, maybe a little video clip. It's all about the let us see it kind of thing to kind of help with the judging. So that's what we'll have to work out, but I'm convinced we can.
Connie did post some will not be given out this season, so just for clarification, but I'm sure we all know there's things that are still ambiguous. Howard posted, what is one of the biggest mistakes students make when talking to judges?
I won't be, I don't want to say rude, but it's almost like we've had a few instances where they didn't even want to take the time. You could tell they were just kind of push off, you're just bothering us kind of thing. Right? And we've had other kids that will look you right in the eye and say, you know what? We got a match coming up. A chain broke and we got to get this thing fixed. Can you come back? And we'll get that kind of response. Just be honest. We understand that it's just like mayhem back in the pits sometime. But just, be professional. And we understand there could be, crazy things going on, but just tell us. But I have seen that a few times where you kind of get the brush off kind of thing. That typically doesn't set very well with judges.
Connie added a post. This season, FRC teams will need to be intentional in the awards they are applying for. A process is being worked out for this. Know what awards you're best suited for and apply. Personally speaking, as a veteran, I think it'd be great if we had an idiot's guide to the differences between some of the awards. They can kind of get very blurry between, and I think it would be helpful to have a 1 or 2 paragraph differentiator, not a 1 or 2 sentence differentiator.
Yeah, that's a good that's some good feedback. I think that's something we could do. For example, some of the awards, they really don't depend on how they function on the field. and you'll read language like it has to address the challenge of the game. Okay. So does that mean you could come in last place, but you could still win the creativity award, right? Because the thing that we're thinking is creative about your robot, it could still outshine what everybody else has. Okay. But I think that's something we can work on to kind of help out or kind of interpret a little bit some of the language that's in the criteria.
A couple more questions are in here. How much weight do the chairman's short answer and essay questions weigh in the decision?
Everything. All I can say about the chairman's award is everything is important. I mean, all the data is important. It really at the end of the day, I don't want to give out, oh, we weight that X percent. All I can say is everything's important. Okay. The interview is important. Everything about the chairman's award is important.
Great. Another question. When a judge comes to a pit, are they judging all awards, a category of awards, or just an award, a specific award? Do the judges let the students know which awards they're judging?
What you can do is you can kind of figure out based on the questions. And one of the things that we've done in Georgia is, and this is to make just the judging process more effective. Like years ago, you would see judges coming around in pairs. And the way that would work is one of the judges they would be doing robot type awards. So we would typically, as an example, it may be an engineer, geeky type person would be partnered up with maybe a banking executive. Okay. And the banking executive, maybe the non-engineering type, they would be poking more about team attribute questions, team spirit things. Right. And then, of course, the geek would be digging more into, well, gee, how'd you build this thing? How's your drive chain work? So we'd go in pairs of two. And that's kind of the way it'd be broken up. Now you'll see usually in pairs of threes. And that way, instead of me having to worry about, 6 awards or 7 awards, I only have to worry about 4 awards. So we kind of divvy up. So each judge will be looking at several awards. Now, like I said before, you can pretty much tell who is judging, who's asking about team stuff and who's asking about kind of technical things. That's kind of the way we break it up.
Great. We got time for, here's another one. How do you recruit and choose judges?
The way we recruit judges is a lot of times we'll be looking, especially as we were going to the district model, we wanted to get people excited in those different regions. So we would reach out and get people from different companies and say, hey, we want you to come in and help at this event. And then what we would do is we would take more experienced judges to work with these new folks. And it's really good. It's a great way to get them kind of anointed with FIRST in general. It's fantastic. And let me tell you something. The students, the kids, you guys are what sell the program, right? That's how we're able to get these big companies lined up when they come in and they judge and get to spend time with you folks. So it's an excellent tool that we use within GeorgiaFIRST to bring on new people. And there's various other things we do too. So we'll typically reach out to companies or businesses in that area to invite people. It's one of the ways we do it. And then there's also people who go online and they'll put into, hey, they would like to be a judge. And we do some vetting, right? Does it kind of make sense? Do we need judges? We don't need 100 judges at an event, for example. So we kind of look at it that way too. It's been working out pretty well in Georgia, actually. When I talk to other districts and regions nationally, we've always done very well with the folks we get on to judge. You guys are asking some good questions.
Clarify on a point you just made, Brian. So right now you're doing okay with judges, or would you put out a petition to say we could use, a little help getting a certain type of judge?
Oh, we do that every year. I mean, we'll send out the communications. Hey, if you know somebody, because we'd like to have a big pool. We don't want to be scrambling around at the last minute. Um, and unfortunately, sometimes we'll have, people drop out. We may have to do a little bit of scrambling, but for the most part, we've done pretty well.
We still got people hanging on and listening. So if you folks have questions, you go right ahead. I have something to the chat for me. Can we get a copy of the recording somewhere? Yes, we can. It'll be posted on the YouTube channels and most likely along with the presentation. So yes, they'll be posted with, and hey, I just subscribed to the Georgia First YouTube channel. You too, you should too. Question, is pool primarily from corporate sponsors or do you cast a bigger net?
No, there's other judges that it hasn't all been companies, but you do have to realize that at the end of the day, it takes dollars to run the program. So we're always trying to do what we can do to get folks excited about the program that can go back and have some influence with their companies that they can donate money to the organization, because really without the mentors, coaches, without the human capital that we have within Georgia First, the program is not going anywhere. But we also have to have dollars. It takes money to do all the things that we do. So, I mean, those are two of the really important things that we need across the state. So we've had, judges. We got quite a few judges, for example, that aren't, from big corporate America, because they can, they're smart. They interact well with students and things like that. We've had retired teachers, policemen, firemen, you name it. We've had those folks as judges, and they make excellent judges, by the way, too. But again, for our strategy within Georgia's, we're trying to get our fingers into, these other companies and things like that. So judging has always been a good way to, get people kind of excited about it.
A couple of posts from Connie to add to what you're saying, that for the 2021 season, there will be virtual opportunities. That's a very different judging role. And of course, one of the most important aspects of judging recruitment is avoiding a conflict of interest with teams. We need to have fairness and consistency. A couple of questions follow that. So to clarify, when the sets of judges come around, whether 2 or 3 at a time, they are not necessarily looking at qualification for the same award, but multiple?
Oh yeah. When you're talking to a group of judges, they're canvassing abroad. Yeah, they're canvassing all the awards basically.
Okay, following that, another question. Is EI, assuming Engineering Inspiration Award, judged by the group of 3 judges, or is that judged by a separate group of judges? My understanding is it's judged in the pits. Is that correct?
Yes, EI is judged in the pits.
Great. You don't have a judge like this often, folks. Let her rip. Okay, so for question, so which ones are judged in the pits?
Really, for the most part, other than chairman's is not in the pits. And I think that, it was in one of those slides, things like the things that you submit online, for the most part, those are not judged in the pits.
And going back to the EI award, the Engineering Inspiration Award, is it judged by the group of 3 judges or judged by a separate group of judges?
Well, you have to remember what I was saying before, and it's not like 3 people are going to determine who wins. Okay, what these judges are doing is, if you look at, let's say there's 40 teams, then we'll have judges that'll canvass a certain block of teams. Okay. And then remember I said before that these judges kind of act like detectives. Well, then they'll come back and based on those block of teams that they've interviewed, they'll make recommendations. They'll think, hey, you know what? We think this team over here, they should be nominated for the quality award. Well, you'll have another judge somewhere that say, well, you know what? I think this team over here ought to be nominated for the quality award. And then that's when we start to kind of build up the candidate list, for the different awards. And that's where really the deliberation comes into play, where we're looking at various robots for an award. And remember, I said how important that those criteria are. That's when we really start to drill in the criteria to weigh how these different teams meet the criteria for those awards. That's kind of the way we do it.
And you and Connie think alike. She just posted that thing in writing. You just said. So Brent posted, it seems a little selfish to ask for students to nominate you for Woody Flowers. How do coaches and students go about deciding to nominate? And should coaches provide any guidance?
Not really sure how to do that. When the way I look at nominations, the more the better. Right? It's like, because sooner or later it'll have to be kind of figured out. And like I think, and Connie will correct me here, but I think for some of those awards, each team can nominate like so many, like I think for Dean's List. And I know looking across the state, I don't think that every team does nominate for Dean's List for one reason or another. Right. But I've always erred on that if a team can nominate somebody, then let them nominate it and let the process kind of vet out, who would eventually be recognized for the award.
All right. I have noticed in times past how a team is visited by 4 to 5 sets of judges. Is that pretty typical?
It may be that there's something that the judges are trying to figure out. Okay, it could be that simple. It could be one of those things where maybe we see something on the field and maybe we're trying to drill in a little bit more to get more data. It could be something along those lines.
Follow-up question to that was, are there follow-up pitch interviews when trying to single out a winning team for an award?
Well, we're always gathering data.
Okay, that could be a yes. Another question, what are some other things that could count against a team? Are judges always looking around and not just formally in the pits?
There's everything's in play. I mean, really, when you're as a team and really everybody there, you're kind of in the limelight is a good way to say it. So let's say here's a hypothetical. Let's say that one of the students on the team has a bad attitude. Let's say they're yelling at the refs and throwing the battery down, and just if we see a lot of really kind of not gracious professionalism behavior, then yeah, something like that could weigh in very heavily on that team, for some of those team awards, for example. But it's also, it goes beyond, it's more of, is it a whole team kind of thing, or is it just like one person, or they having a bad day kind of thing? I think that's come up before, like around, like a parent or a mentor or something like that. And we've pretty much kept it where that would not impact a team. So it's more about the students than anything else.
Great. Just a note too from Connie. Woody Flowers is not judged at the district level. It'll never help to be intentional and let your team know about the award and help them to gather a group that can shepherd the nomination. Do not be shy in mentioning this award to your teams. Speaking from my own history, I love to make sure that the kids know that, especially the outside mentors should be recognized and at least apply for our outside mentors. I've had a lot of luck with keeping mentors that way, that they appreciate it and they deserve it. Well, that's just another note. However, ungracious behavior will need to be addressed with the coach. There may be other reasons a student behaves in a negative way.
Is that from Connie?
That is correct.
Yeah, she keeps me corrected, doesn't she?
She's great, and thank God for Connie, right? Everybody, thank God for Connie.
And to kind of follow up on that, and we've done that a few times. We call that feedback. Remember, feedback's a gift. So we've had some conversations with coaches and mentors and things in the past. But just to kind of reiterate, if if a parent flies off the handle because their team didn't win or anything, then we don't get in some back room and say, well, team XX, take them off the board. They're not going to qualify for anything. Something like that would never happen.
Great. And just speaking from personal history too, I've had a lot of autistic kids on my teams, and I've had some strange behavior in the pits when the judges came around. And I've explained it to the judges on the side.
And that's fine. And I think the key thing there is just communication. Pull us aside. And I think what you'll find out is people will be very understanding for those kind of situations.
Right. We are about 10 minutes left. So if you folks have any more questions, now is the time.
This was a good group. Good questions.
I'm going to hold you to that idiot's guide of awards from me personally.
I'm sure Connie took a note of that.
Yeah.
And I will be reminded.
Great. Question, is Woody Flowers judged solely on the essay? Are other mentors judging this award?
Was this on the Woody Flowers?
Correct. Is Woody Flowers judged solely on the essay?
That might be a Connie question. I have not.
Yeah. And she's been listening in. I think she'll respond.
I don't deal with that.
Great. We're winding down. Definitely appreciate all these answers, Brian. It's been helpful to have a heavy Q&A.
Hey, I will say this too. If you heard an answer that doesn't make sense to you, or you're still a little bit befuddled by the response, do keep in mind, I can't tell you all aspects of the judging process, right? But feel free to follow up with me if something's just not clicking with you, and I'll follow up.
Excellent. Connie did chime in. Woody Flowers is judged on the essay by other Woody Flowers Award winners.
There you go.
She knows a lot. All right. You guys got your last call in, like I said, about 10 minutes in. Well, it has been a long day, but a good day, and bravo to Connie and crew for organizing such a great day.
Well, you have it all day tomorrow too, right?
We do.
Yeah.
Good chunk tomorrow. You're in charge of the timing, Brian. If you think they're spent, you get to make the call.
I can't see anything. My screen is kind of hazed over.
Okay.
I got the Cisco WebEx is not responding.
Okay. We got lots of just thank yous. I think everybody's kind of spent.
All right. Well, hey, again, any questions, feel free to reach out. And thanks for attending, and have a great afternoon.
Great. Thank you, Brian, for making the time to do this, and for everybody else being involved. It was really active. It was really fun. And hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow.
All righty. Bye-bye, everybody.
See you, everybody.
Go Vols.